for the next 1 hour. I hope you all enjoy this session. Over to Madhulika Smriti, our anchor for the today.
Thank you, Harshad. Wishing you very good afternoon to Mr. Shashikant Nehul, our esteemed guest for today's webinar, organized by Symbiosis Institute of Geoinformatics. I also welcome Ms. Sonal Rawal, admission in charge and supervisor, and all the attendees of the event. Welcome, sir, to SIG. It is an honor for us to have you with us. There is no doubt that this is going to be a wonderful session for all the students of SIG. Now, allow me to introduce Mr. Shashikant Nehul, a distinguished individual who has achieved notable accomplishments in the field of environmental science, particularly in the realm of atmospheric pollution research. Mr. Nehul holds a master's degree in environmental science and is currently engaged in pursuing advanced research in this area. Mr. Nehul also has expertise and acknowledged by the Government of India through his association with National Air Monitoring Program, which receives funding from the government. Furthermore, he has been recognized internationally as a recipient of the prestigious Erasmus Scholarship during his doctoral studies at Uppsala University in Sweden. This accolade was granted to him as a European Union Fellow. In addition to his research endeavors, Mr. Nehul also contributes to the academic community through his affiliations with prominent institutions such as Savitribai Phule, Pune University, and Symbiosis International University. His association with these institutions further strengthens his commitment to advancing knowledge and fostering academic excellence. Thank you, sir. Now I request Mr. Shashikant Nehul to enlighten us with his knowledge, wisdom, and experience over the field of research. Over to you, sir.
Yes, I hope I'm audible. And thank you so much for this introduction. And it's a pleasure of me that somehow you called me for this lecture. And I'm delighted to throw some insight in the topic of research. Okay, I've understood that all of you, especially the second year students, they are already working on research projects. And I also understand that somehow research, this vast ocean of research, what type of challenges, problems we encounter, how to deal with those problems, that particularly will be focusing much on. Okay, so basically we'll start with basic understanding of what research is, and further we'll proceed with the understanding of different aspects and dimensions of research. Okay, so I request all of you to please pay attention, because somehow what we will be doing is we'll have a presentation on the screen, and majority of the points which are given in the presentation, they will be highlighted upon. I'm just sharing my screen, so please stay connected. So I hope you can see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. So we'll be talking about the fundamentals of research, and let's begin with our session. So first of all, whenever we are doing any research, what basically we have to focus upon. So primarily in this particular talk, we'll be focusing on how to write the research paper, research and its types, basic understanding of that, and then why we conduct it, and what is qualified as a good research. Okay, so in these four categories, we'll try to have the session, and then we will have question answers later after. Now, what is research? So these are the types of research: basic research, applied research, qualitative, quantitative. What does this mean? Now, often it happens that when we are having any data set, okay, that data set, when we try to analyze, we try to take out something out of it. So by using statistical and mathematical tools, we derive some conclusions, and on the basis of that, we actually portray our findings. And once we portray it, that converts into a good scientific knowledge. Applied research, whenever the problem is there in the society, with the help of technology, we can do it. And whatever advancements are there, if any particular section, it is useful for others, okay, in other field, that basically is called as applied research for a contemporary problem. Qualitative and quantitative, often you must have heard that whenever historians or say archaeologists, they collect data of paintings, they collect data of different type of tools, not numbers. So in that particular case, if we have to conduct research, that becomes qualitative research. And quantitative, that all of you are doing, basically what you are doing is you are collecting data from different surveys or different observations, and on that basis, whatever concentrations you have, on that basis, when you conduct research, that's quantitative research. Okay. Now, what basically is the significance of research? Let me go through this first, and then we will start with the basic understanding of the papers. First of all, the very prime step while conducting research is to gather necessary information. So whatever information you have or you are trying to gather from any source, you are gathering it, you are collecting it, and you are putting it in a homogenized fashion. That is the prime fundamental step. Then often it happens that whenever you gather data, the data is not foolproof. Okay, in that particular situation, what you have to do is you have to make changes in the data. Okay, so there are many mathematical and statistical tools through which you homogenize the data and somehow you present it and you analyze it later. So that's the second step. You have to make necessary changes. Improving standard of living. Now, this is a little bit tricky, because what happens is whatever products, gadgets we use, whatever good lifestyle we are having, what is that? That is nothing but you are getting it through research only. Okay, so anything which is searched or researched on micro level, that leads to finer refinement, and that finer refinement is what we are able to enjoy. Now, research often is having a significance of a safe life. Of course, if you are conducting good research, you are getting more and more clearer, and that actually is a sign of having a good successful life. Then research also leads us to truth. Then we also come to know about the history. Okay, then we also, like in arts field, we basically understand the art, and technologically or skillfully, if you say, you learn more and more different wide techniques to have approach towards the same problem. Now, coming to the research paper, this is what is the crux of today's talk. Okay, now all of you have taken research topics, right? And when you decided to do research, primarily you started simply because it's a part of your curriculum. And since it's a part of your curriculum, blindly we just jump into it because there is no other option left. Some people, they're already interested in research, and that's why they get interested, and that's why they try to figure out a research paper. So there are many dimensions through which we enter this field, research. Okay. But when we enter this field, and somehow now in today's situation that all of you are doing your research projects, there are many challenges which everyone encounters. Okay. The first challenge I'll tell you is, say when I came in this room, I was given 3 headphones. Okay. I was given 2 glass bottles. Now what is happening here? If you try to analyze this situation, I was filled with complexity. I have many options which to choose. Okay. Instead, if there is one headphone and one water bottle present here, that's more of a simple thing. So the first and very important thing all of us should remember is we have to keep everything very simple. Okay. Often there is a misconception. We feel that we have to write in a very sophisticated way. We have to think in a sophisticated way. Then only it will attract attention. Or any research project which you do is simply nothing but you should always keep everything in very simple terms. Now, what does this mean? For example, you started with your research. I'll share one of my experiences. Now, you see, basically, whenever we start with the research, reading the research papers, going through the literature review, what happens is we often are stuck and we are stuck at a particular situation wherein we try to understand how to read. Okay. And when we are having a research paper in our hand, we try to read it wholly, okay, completely. And there is where you must have experienced this, that when you read the paragraph of a research paper, only the first two lines we are able to understand in initial times. Rather than understanding the entire paragraph, our mind only allows us to understand first two lines of the paragraph. The remaining four lines, we are puzzled up, the brain is lost, okay? And somehow what happens is we feel that, okay, limited information I have understood from this paper. Now, this paper, research paper, it has many paragraphs on paragraphs. So what happens? You are hardly able to keep yourself connected while reading it. And that's why what happens is we get a mental block and we basically struggle to understand what the paper is saying. Now, this is one of the often real challenges which everyone encounters. Okay. Now, the solution to this is, you see, whenever you're reading a research paper, what you have to do is you have to first of all read the abstract. Okay. Once you start reading the abstract, you come to know whether this research paper is of your use or no. Now, always remember, abstract of a research paper, it is a summary of the entire research paper. So it is just like in research paper, you have sections like introduction, methodology, result and discussions, limitations, and conclusions. Okay, so 5 sections, if you have all the sections, the abstract will cover, and somehow it will try to portray what is there in this paper. Okay, so that is the thing. So when you are reading, first go through the abstract. Once you read 5 abstracts of 5 different research papers, then you try to understand that yes, 1 or 2 are useful for you, and you download those papers and you keep it with yourself. And then you have to read the paper thoroughly. Now, when you start reading the paper, basically what happens is we read it and we keep the information, we highlight the points which we have understood. But try to understand, reading research papers at initial times is very, very important. When it is important, what I'm trying to say out of it here is, when you are reading a research paper, what happens is you keep the information with you, but whether that information is useful for your research, you are not able to evaluate. Because many a times what happens, there are factual informations which are given. There are many things which you grab from introduction of the paper, many things from methodology and result and discussions. But what actually is useful for your research and how your research paper will get converted from the other's research paper, that you need to understand. So first and very important thing, try to understand, guys. First of all, whenever you are trying to read a research paper and you are struggling to read it, have this eye that when you are reading the introduction section of the paper, every research paper's introduction section, it talks about gaps in the research. Okay, I will just show you an example, basically how to identify the gap, how to keep an eye to identify the gap in the research paper. So let me just share my screen. I'll just give you an example of a research paper. Where is that paper? Oh, sorry. This is just a minute. I'm sharing the paper. Yes. So I hope all of you are able to see this research paper. So I hope you are able to see the screen. Please confirm.
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So now we have a research paper over here. Now, if you read the title of this research paper, Air Pollution Knowledge Assessment for 20 Indian Cities. Okay. Now, this research paper was made in a view of having understanding of 20 cities for a comparative analysis. Okay. Now, let's see how to read a research paper. I have taken this as a representative example. Now, if you see, the abstract of this research paper, okay, you'll find this abstract. It is saying that Delhi, with a population of 22 million, is one of the most polluted capital cities in the world. Nearly 50% of the population in Delhi. Okay. Now, if you see this, just a minute, I'll just go page by page. So if you see, in the second sentence of this paper, abstract only, he has written, however, air pollution impacts are not limited only to the capital city, yet there is a little information and attempt to quantify these impacts for tier 1 and tier 2 cities, even though they account for more than 30% of India's population. Which means that when you are reading a paper, try to identify the gap. Now, if you see the next page, I hope, I think it is not working here, but anyways, try to understand. In the introduction of this paper, the author has very properly explained that why air pollution study is important. Secondly, he has mentioned that somehow air pollution study is important, but primarily air pollution studies have focused only on Delhi as a capital city. Majority of the studies have happened there. So he wanted to conduct research in tier 1 and tier 2 cities. Tier 1 and tier 2 cities are nothing but based on the population as well as the pollution load. So those cities are categorized like that. But not much literature is collected on tier 1 and tier 2 cities apart from Delhi. And that's why he is identifying as a research gap that yes, all the cities, all the areas in Delhi, they have been studied properly, but only Delhi is focused much and not other parts of the country. And that's why he said that that's why he has conducted this research paper on air pollution knowledge assessment for 20 Indian cities. So scientifically, he's trying to justify in the introduction section itself that somehow the research gap is no literature availability in other cities. That's why there is a need for research on other cities. That's how he has identified the gap and he's trying to fulfill that gap. Okay. The very important thing which we need to understand from this is any paper, if you read, any research paper you take it, you will find in introduction, the author will always address the gap. And that gap is addressed after a sufficient information in that subject is given. And after that, the author will say, okay, however, this is the thing because of which the study has to be conducted, or other literatures are lagging in that. And that's how they study the gap and somehow they present it. Okay. Now you see, in COVID times, many like a lot of literature came out regarding air pollution, coronavirus, all these studies, because the virus was airborne and all. Let me tell you guys, many studies came on the limited period of data. So after COVID-19, when the research papers, they came out, basically they focused on long-term data availability and thereby they justified the claim. And that's why in introduction, you have to frame your research question. Okay, so you have the introduction section which you have to write. For that, how you'll write that, how you'll identify that gap. So whatever data set you have, okay, and whatever findings you will get out of that, first of all, go through the other literatures, okay, just see what are the gaps, other research papers they have identified. And out of that, where is your research getting in, how your work is fulfilling that gap, you have to identify. Unless and until you portray your introduction section with addressing a gap, what will happen? The journal will not be in the condition to accept your research paper. So the first and very important thing is, guys, you should address the research question or you should identify the gap and present it in the introduction section. So when you're reading any research paper, try to understand when you read introduction section, okay, what you have to do is you have to keep an eye like this, that you are not getting much information. To general information, you can get it anywhere. Okay, just like here it is in this paper introduction, he's written that air pollution is a serious environmental health issue in India is not under debate. The global burden of disease assessment estimates 0.74 million and there is premature deaths in 1990 and 2016 due to PM 2.5. So this information Google can also give you. Okay, this is general information. But then what you have to look into the introduction of research papers, you have to see how the author has identified the gap and how he has addressed his question. Okay, so that is one thing. Now, when we read the research paper, okay, you read the introduction, you identify the gap, and what you do is you read 10-15 papers, you keep a summary of those papers. Now, how you will keep the summary? Okay, first of all, many a times I've seen that what we do is the basic conventional way, we just take the highlights of the research paper, small pointers, and we keep it in one section or one paragraph or one Excel sheet. We will just paste it. But try to understand that will make your work more and more complex. It will make you more and more suffer later when you're writing your research paper. So what you have to do is you have to follow a pattern wherein you are able to channelize your reading like in a proper way. For example, say today you read 2 papers. Likewise, at the 10th day, you read 20 papers. Okay, 20, 30, 40 papers. When you read, you at the 30th day, you will forget what you have read in the first paper. And that's why even if you have written it somewhere, you won't be able to summarize the information and identify which section should be used in what. And therefore, try to remember, try to understand this, that when you are reading a research paper, keep an Excel sheet with you, which will have 4 titles. Okay, 4 different columns you make. One is the name of the journal. Second, name of the authors. Third, the year of publication. Fourth, what are the findings of this paper? Fifth, what are the limitations? And if you're working on quantitative data, what is the data period? Okay, so all these sections, when you identify, what you do, when you read that paper, you come to know, okay, his findings are these. So you keep it in finding section. Okay, the limitation of the study is this, you keep it in limitation section. Okay, what happens is, you see, knowingly or unknowingly or consciously or unconsciously, what you're doing, you are arranging all your literature review in a proper format. So at the end of your, say, completion of your literature review, say 50 papers you have read, you have systematic arrangement of systematic arrangement of all the papers so that no valuable information is missed out when you are writing your paper. Okay, so very importantly, try to understand the limitations of others' research papers. They become your identification of the gaps, or they become your strength in your paper. Because in the introduction, you can say that several studies are mentioning these limitations. So against that, my study is covering up that gap, and that will become your introduction. And if you write it in proper way like this, trust me, your paper will, the chances of rejection will be bare minimum, because you have very properly identified the research gap. Okay, often when journals, they reject paper, they reject only because, okay, of these 2-3 prime yardsticks. First is not addressing proper research question. Okay, and how you'll address a proper research question? Make a summary of your literature review in 5 different columns, because you don't know which part is useful where. Let me tell you guys, introduction of a research paper should cover maximum amount of references. Okay, what happens is, often when we think that, okay, result and discussion bhi likhna hai, methodology bhi likhna hai, unnecessarily we keep on giving reference to whatever literature review we have done. We try to just give reference here and there, but that's not a good practice. Once you have clarity to identify the research gap, you come to know, okay, these references I can use here, and that becomes a systematic way. Because the peer reviewer, when he will be reading your paper, okay, he of course is an expert, so he comes to know what is the quality of material you are putting and how you are addressing the research question. That is a game changer. Okay, so basically, introduction, try to understand any paper you read now. Say all of you must be having around 10, 15, 20 papers in your hand in your desktop or as a hard copy. Just revisit the papers again, and you will see your entire outlook will change. Okay, because you will come up with real research information which you need, not just a fact file from the paper as such. Okay, now after introduction comes material, methods, or methodology. In the methodology section, okay, often since you are from geoinformatics, you are dealing with the majority of the times spatial and temporal scale studies, I believe. So often what happens is we try to explain the research area, okay, in whatever way possible. Okay, but understand, when you are writing the methodology, say for example, I have conducted research on air pollution over Pune city. Okay, I have taken this topic and I started working. Now, once I started working on this, I came out with the finding that suppose the dust pollution is a problem in Pune city. Particulate matter is very, very problematic affair in Pune. So that is problematic in terms of what? In terms of health. But In the study area, if I start writing, describing my, in the material method, if I start describing about the study areas and the other components which are more aligned towards economic aspects, that Pune is having a lot of GDP outcome is coming in and all, that is irrelevant and redundant information. So based on what you are getting as a finding and what is your way of looking at the finding, you try to keep the methodology restricted to that. So if someone is studying Pune for festival occasions, then we can start as Pune is a cultural and historical heritage, or it is having a lot of cultural touch. But when you are writing about health and this, then mentioning Pune as Pune is having a cultural touch and all these festivals are celebrated, that becomes a little bit offbeat information compared to what actually you should define. So when you are defining air pollution, then you should focus more on Pune as geographical area. The city is under urban expansion. The city is experiencing a lot of vehicular fleet and a lot of construction activities because of its proximity to Mumbai. So that is aligned information of the description of the city area, like with respect to your findings. So material and method, when you're writing, first you explain the study area and whatever techniques you have mentioned, statistical techniques and all, you should mention it there. But you should not elaborate much on the statistical techniques unless and until that technique is contemporary or latest. Say, for example, if I say Pearson correlation was computed or Pearson correlation was calculated to understand the association of pollutant with meteorological variables, I need not explain in my paper what is Pearson correlation. There is no need. But if I say Mann-Kendall statistic was applied to test the data for the monotonic trend, then I should give 2 to 3 lines as a description of what is Mann-Kendall, because trend analysis can be done with Mann-Kendall as well as student t-test or t-distribution, as well as any other test which is used in a parametric way. So here you have to distinguish why you are using your Mann-Kendall test. And that's why 2-3 sentences description is, if you give it, that will be beneficial. But if you're saying I computed mean, then you computed Pearson correlation, you computed median, no need for elaboration because it is self-understood that these are descriptive statistics which often are used. Okay, so that is what is all about material method section. Then the very important section of the paper comes, and that is result and discussion. Okay, now result and discussion. Okay, in fact, this is the section which actually is it actually gives us nightmares, because result and discussion, how to compute and how to summarize and how to formulate, that itself is like a questionable affair. Remember, guys, I told you that you have to keep everything simple when you are writing the research paper. Don't make it complex. Okay. Now, when you are writing the research paper, result and discussion section, or when you're trying to compile your result and discussion, okay, you should always start with summary of the data. Whatever you have got in general, that you should explain first. In general, from a bird's eye view, this is what is our, these are what are our results. And then you try to like explain each and every result in a micro way as you move further. Okay. So basically what you have to do, you have to summarize, okay, whatever in nutshell you are getting, you first in general, you tell them. And after that, slowly, whatever micro level analysis you have done, you should explain, and thereby you should proceed. For example, I'll give you an example. Say, for example, I conducted study, since my field is air pollution, I'll give you examples of air pollution. So, say I conducted study on air pollution for 20 years, okay, in 2 decades, for 2 decades, say 2001 to 2020, 20 years data I took, and I conducted the study on air pollution. And now 20 years data is huge data, and I came up with a lot of understanding of that. Okay, so how to put it now in results and discussion. So what I will do is, first of all, what is the picture of Pune city? Say, for example, Pune study area. What is the picture of Pune city in 20 years in general? That I will talk about first. Then I'll talk about, in the result section, what is the annual variation in the pollution in the long run in 20 years? Annually, how the pollution has varied. Then later I'll discuss how the seasonal patterns in the pollution, they are varied. Okay. So I'll get winter season has got the maximum level of pollution, or post monsoon has got the maximum level of pollution. So I'm going in a micro level. And then after that, seasonal analysis explanation, I will go on intra-annual explanation that out of in these 20 years, okay, which is the month of the year in these 20 years, which is the culprit for higher levels of pollution. So I went from bird's eye view in general, what Pune is saying, then narrowed down to month, annual, then seasonal, then intra-annual, and likewise, I will just narrow down my results on a micro scale, and then I will conclude my result. So I can't simply start with winter. Winter is having a very high load of pollution over Pune, and because the value is this, then the reader will get jumbled up. Okay, so you have to write it in such a way that the generalized information, broader information in result section should come first. What is your broad finding? And after that, go step by step on micro level analysis and explain that. Okay, that is one thing. Now, often there is a confusion between students, like amongst research community, a lot of those who are new to research, that result and discussion when they're writing, no, whether we should write results separately and discussion separately, or whether we should club it, because often you must have encountered that in some papers, result and discussion part is written combined, like in one section only, but in some papers it is written separately. So it's completely your call, okay, how you want to elaborate, but I would suggest result and discussion should go together, because that is where you save your time also, and you also come to know, you also can, if a journal is having limited number of words, or they give you a word limit, you can like summarize it in a proper way, so that discussion is also covered. Now, what basically is discussion? If you want to understand that, then after the session, this part is over, you can ask questions, and one by one I'll tell you, because I initially told you research is not a structured topic. Everyone has his or her own issue with the research. So your problems, others' problems, sabke problems alag alag hote hain. So we will keep more time for discussion as such. Okay, and you can ask me questions. Now, what is discussion? Discussion section, try to understand, it's nothing but validation of your results. Okay, why someone will like believe or trust your results? Okay, so first of all, try to understand whatever results you got, you have to back those results with evidences. Okay, so how will back those results with evidences? So you got the result. Okay, similar studies, whatever you have done, we have done the literature review. Similar studies, jo kuch bhi hui hai, from those studies, you will try to relate your study. Okay, I told you make a table like that. Okay, limitation, finding, and all, so that very easily you can relate your result with, okay, this like seventh paper's result is matching my results. So your results get validated by the others' reference. So in discussion, what you have to write, say you got this concentration of particulate matter, you can say these results are supported by XYZ, because he is also carried out the similar study, and on the basis of that, my results are also valid. But it's not mandatory that every time results should be supported by the studies. Sometimes your results get contradictory with the literature. Okay, literature review, whatever papers you've read. So your results may get in contrast. Then there also you can very beautifully say that this is what I got. In contrast, the other studies have got this, and then you give the reason why you got the contrast. Okay, this may be because of influence of monsoon over Pune, which other studies don't have. Okay, and this is what is how the discussion has to be done. Every result you try to validate it, because unless and until your results are validated, it won't be called as research, right? So you validate it, and accordingly you put it, and you synchronize your discussion section. Okay, now result and discussion after that is limitation of the study. I'll tell you guys, not as a rule of thumb, but in general, always remember this. Any paper which discusses limitation of the study is actually a pure and good paper. Okay, it's a good research because the author is not misleading the further researchers. Often what happens, our study have a lot of limitations. Okay, so you're doing some research and your research has a lot of n number of limitations coming in. So sometimes data is not available, sometimes time is limited, sometimes you are not able to do the analysis because you don't have the software. N number of factors are there. But still we want to portray that, yes, my research is very good. It is very impactful. So what we do, we tend to be biased. We don't put limitations, and that's not a good practice. So whatever limitations you faced, you should portray it. You should explain it, because unless and until you will explain the limitations, okay, the other research, it won't be accepted as a paper, because even if the paper is peer reviewed, then you will get a lot of comments on that and it will become a troublesome affair. So keep it simple, be transparent, okay, explain the limitations, okay, whatever limitations you encountered, because let me tell you guys, a quality of a paper is decided on the basis of its reproducibility. आपका पेपर अच्छा है या बुरा है, ये आपके पेपर कितना reproducible है, इसके ऊपर decide किया जाता है. Not what robust information, what robust software, what robust analysis you have done. No, don't be in this. मैं इतना बड़ा करूंगा, इतना बड़ा करूंगी, so my paper will be very good. No, it's not like that. It is basically on reproducibility, and that means, for example, say for example, I did some very high fundo analysis, okay, and that machine, like that instrument is very robust, or that software is very robust, and I got a chance that I got a chance to use that software, and I made a paper and I wrote this was used and this technique is very advanced, so that's why the results are very good and they are reliable and very well result and discussion I've written. But still, the chances are sometimes that paper backfires. Why? Because that paper is not producing reproducible results. Means same work if any other person on the globe wants to mimic or do in his or her area, he don't have that facility. He don't have, say for example, some poor countries in Africa, if they want to do research and your paper is using a lot of big high fundo instruments which like are in lakhs or crores, they don't have that facility. So your paper is of no use to them if they are getting interest in your type of study. So even if you publish that paper, if they read it and they are not able to find those sort of like facilities, what will happen? The reproducibility of the paper will go down, and thereby the citations will also go down. And that is why your paper will be a paper, but it will be sort of namesake or something like that. So always remember, a good paper is a paper which, when done, anybody is able to do in any part of the globe the same type of study if he or she is interested in his or her conditions, because they are interested in your paper, that thereby they're taking that reference and they are conducting that study. So paper has to be reproducible, and reproducibility rate increases if you actually mention the limitations of the study very openly, that these are the limitations we encountered, that actually is welcomed in scientific community. Okay, don't commit a mistake that limitations you try to cover it up. No, many a times malpractices are done. People, they insert fake data because of the limitation in the data, okay, and then they try to manipulate it. But remember guys, that is caught by the scientific community, because the people who are reading that research, they are experts. So you have to keep that in mind, be transparent. Finally comes the conclusion. Okay, conclusion of a research paper. What is conclusion? Okay, oftentimes here is where, now since you are those who are new in research, they need help of their guide. Okay, the role of guide is to like basically you conduct the work, but he is the one who will keep you aligned, and conclusion is the thing which comes in at the end. What is conclusion? Now you see guys, often when we try to write the conclusion, we try to explain that this is useful here, this is useful there, my results are useful, they are a guiding factor to this socioeconomic problem, scientific problem, medical science problem. No, your data, what it speaks, that much only you have to present. For example, one of a student of your college, Tarun Jain, he is working on air pollution with me. And his work is quite fabulous and it has a lot of good expanse. I'll tell you guys, he has taken 4 cities and he's trying to understand the pollution variation in the studies, and we are almost on the verge of completing it. You see, the conclusion of that study is not something new. Okay, we are not concluding that, okay, this is what is we have observed, or this is why, and that this should be done. No, the conclusion is simply that there is no documentation of these 4 cities, coastal cities as such as of now. And that's why we are documenting these results, which may be useful for anyone who want to study the coastal city. That's the conclusion. Okay. And what has come out of it? That's it. Be utmost precise to what your results are. Don't try to relate things which are far away connected with your results. Okay. Don't try to do that. For example, I wrote a manuscript on COVID-19 and connection with air pollution. So the number of cases which increased because of air pollution. So whatever result drop down in pollution happened during the lockdown, I tried to explain it. then I will try to relate it with COVID-19 cases. I'll try to relate it with any other a number of factors. That's vague. You simply have to say, I simply have to say there that lockdown has led to reduction in air pollution, which is quite understanding. Okay, it's quite understood because of course lockdown is there. There are no economic activities. Pollution has to go down, and that is what is the simple solution, which a conclusion I can give, that lockdowns pollution reduction rate was 45%, 47%, whatever it is, and that is the conclusion of the study. That's it, nothing more than that. Okay, so this is how the paper has to go. If you're reading an entire paper, if you make this habit of just taking out highlights of the paper in different columns, it will be very easy for you to use multiple research, multiple facts which are present in the other research papers in your research systematically and where they have to be put in. Okay, now the last point I'll come to is how to read a paper. Okay, ये तो अभी सारा इसका description दे दिया. Since you are already in research, to save your time, I'll tell you, first read the abstract, read the conclusion, and start in a reverse way. Okay. So when you are starting in a reverse way, many a times you come to know that how much it is useful for you. Okay. That is one trick which you can apply. And whenever you read a paper, make it a point, the very same day you just insert you can copy paste in the Excel sheet from the paper itself. I'm not saying you should do it to the paper, but in Excel sheet for your understanding. So whatever you have read, whatever information you found, okay, in introduction, he has identified this gap. I think my gap is same. So write it down in this thing, highlights, findings and limitations. And one more column you can add wherein identification of the gap. So how he has addressed the gap. So if you address these things, we segregate these things properly from every paper, you never know, it will be very easy for you to just compile all those information which are present in the Excel sheet in your research. Okay, and that's how you will come up with a good paper as such. Okay, so that's from my side, and the session is open for discussion. I hope this was something aligned to what you were expecting.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for such a wonderful webinar and such an enticing information which you gave about the research. I hope this would be very informative for all the students, also the students who are going to join the SIG, the freshers, and also all the students basically who are going to have their 6 months research in the next semester. So yes, sir, it was very wonderful. And also I would like to say that yes, your information about like how to read a research paper, like about how to start it like in a reverse manner, about abstract reading first, then conclusion, then reading the research paper in a reverse way, then about the introduction and seeing the gap in the introduction. So it was very wonderful. So now I open the session for all the students. You can put out your questions in the chat box. Okay, sir. So there is one question from Digvijay. So kindly
Yes.
answer yes.
I'll just check the question. Digvijay is asking, are there any resources or tools you would recommend for fresher researchers to enhance their research skills? Okay. So those who are budding researchers who want to come in this field, you start with reading review papers. Okay, guys, understand, all of you. So see, once you are dropping your questions, it opens the entire canvas. So now is what is very important. When you download a paper or when you read a research paper, there is a lot of confusion which paper to use. Always remember, there are in general 3 types of paper. One are the review papers, second are the full length articles, and third are the short communication. Okay, 3 type के paper होते हैं, review papers, full length article and short communication. इसका मतलब क्या है? You people also must have encountered all type, but you are not able to know which is what. Okay, review papers are those papers wherein the author of the paper will not do research by collecting the data by himself or herself and then portraying the results. No, review paper means he has went across thousands of research information in his own paper. So review paper is available in that field till date. And from sorry.
Student, kindly mute yourself.
So basically, review papers are nothing but those papers which actually help you to design your research question, in which direction you should do research, because review paper, what it will tell you, that what is the available knowledge or abundance of knowledge in this particular section of that subject, and how the researchers should take their path forward, because it describes the challenges in that subject. So you can pick up one challenge and thereby you can start working on that. For example, now particulate matter is dust पे बहुत ज़्यादा काम हुआ है, बहुत सारे papers आते हैं. So there are a lot of papers coming in. So what happens is one of the review papers, it said that a lot of spatio-temporal, all these characterization studies have been done on particulate matter, but the organic component of particulate matter is not studied yet. So review paper can tell you worldwide what is the challenge that subject is facing, and budding researchers how they should take significant research step. So accordingly you can plan your research. So review papers शुरुआत में पढ़ने चाहिए. Okay, when you are like, say you want to start getting into research field, you should always go with review papers, because it's a very good choice, because review papers can give you an insight and clarity about what is going on in the field worldwide, and secondly, what are the challenges this field is facing. Okay, so that is what is. Now, how to understand what is a review paper? I'll give you one website. You can note it down: annualreviews.org. ANNUAL, annualreviews.org. This is one website wherein you can type your keyword and you can get lots of, like dozens of papers, you can say review papers, wherein a good amount of literature is discussed and they're reliable. Okay, so the more they are reliable, the more you are benefited. So that way, annual reviews you can use and you can read. And trust me guys, reading one review paper is like talking to 10 experts. Itna zyada usme information base or properly synchronized manner the clarity is given. So you should always have a habit of reading review papers in the beginning. Okay, शुरुआत में आप review papers से start करो. Second type of paper is article, full length article, which all of you are working right now. That means you are collecting data and you are analyzing the data, you're putting your findings and studies and in the form of research paper. That is a full length article that the author, he or she has collected the data, analyzed the data, and portrayed the results and presented a paper. That is a full length article. And third type of research paper is the short communication. Now, what is short communication? It's again a research paper, okay? But the difference between short communication and a full length paper is that, you see, sometimes there is a problem. For example, COVID itself is a very good example. COVID happened worldwide. All the researchers from different parts of the planet, scientists and all, they started working on COVID-19, okay? But so scientific community didn't have much literature available about COVID. And that's why scientific community was starving for that literature. कि COVID के बारे में कुछ तो connection बताओ, कुछ तो बताओ. And that's why parallelly, when multiple people were working in the world on the same issue, so whatever small micro level finding you have got, you just publish it immediately. That, okay, we tested 10 patients and we got this result. The COVID social distancing is good in our case in Iran, say for example. That is not a full length research, but it is a need for that instance. And that's why short communications are popped up by other people, parallelly by multiple this thing, in order to make it sure that others are not misled. For example, I am working on particulate matter. 10 people are working on particulate matter worldwide on a same context. So whatever work I'm doing, a part of that work, I'll immediately pop it out inside as a short communication, so that others, when they read, they will understand, okay, we are also working on the parallel grounds. He has committed this mistake, we should not. Okay. You're getting? So basically, short communications are immediate happenings, which actually are published in a proper way. So all of you remember, first of all, initially, if you are asking me, you should go for review papers. Second type of papers are full length article. A full length article, of course, you should read, because in result and discussion, introduction, everywhere you need it. And third is the short communication. If your problem is contemporary, you can use that literature also. Okay, so I would say that they should go for reading the review papers, and thereby they will have more clarity.
Thank you, sir. There is one more question. Will you tell us the importance of literature while doing the research paper?
Yes, literature review is utmost important, because who will believe your study? The more literature review you do, practically, I'll tell you two things. What is the importance of literature review? First is your vocabulary improves. And that's why you don't get redundancy in your writing, because you are reading more and more literature. That means you are getting more and more inferences, more and more new words you come across. And that's why your redundancy is gone in the literature, okay, in your writing. Second, importance of literature review. When your study is backed up with good amount of literature, okay, then there are less chances to trust that study. Okay, everybody will see that, yes, the study is fully backed and it's, yes, the results are reliable. Okay, but this doesn't mean that you read 70, 80, 100 papers and you are doing a small study which is not giving you, reaping you more findings or good outcomes, and you're just trying to forcefully insert literature in that. Okay, that also doesn't help. Sometimes you'll find good quality, very good quality papers, okay, having impact factor of 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, those papers are using only 10 to 15 references, but those references are very robust. Okay, and their satisfaction is that somehow their research problem is addressed properly. But of course, if you say what is the importance of literature review, first of all, yes, I'll say that it is improving your vocabulary, and secondly, it gives you more clarity about the subject, because you come to know you are working on you are reading the same material, same subject from different authors' angles, and thereby your horizon is broadened. That way, it is helpful.
Sir, the next question is, we know that summary of findings and reference bibliography are some of the crucial parts of a research paper.
Yes.
I wanted to know how much importance does a proper summary of a findings and reference keep in a research paper?
How much importance does a proper summary of findings and reference keep in a research paper? Of course, see, answer is simple. Human mind is not built for multitasking. We can focus only on one thing at a time. And that's why I make use of resources. You make an Excel sheet, and just like I said, segregate the material from the individual paper and put it in one format. It will give you more clarity. Now, what importance does a proper summary of findings keep? See, when you're working on your research paper, you have to write the introduction, material, methods, result and discussion, everything. And you read some literature, you read 15 papers. What will happen? In 15 papers, while reading those, you come to know that from this paper, this part is important for my material section. So if you have a proper summary, you are able to isolate that part and put it in your material and methods. If same paper, if it is saying something in introduction, which might address your research gap, you can use that information in your research gap. So when you segregate, have a proper summary, every paper can serve you multiple assets, okay, while writing the research paper. And that, otherwise, what will happen if you don't have a proper summary? You are, if your guide says that, okay, this is the point, but why this is happening? You again will go and searching 10 new research papers to find out why it is happening, why it is happening. Okay, so your time is wasted. But if you have a proper summary, you can just have a glimpse and you will remember, okay, this paper was talking about this like this. So this can be a reason. So you have a ready-made information base because it's well structured. Okay, and that's what the importance is. One, it saves a hell lot of time. And second, it actually becomes an asset because you parallelly are understanding which section should I take from which particular paper. You don't have to go and keep on filling your hard disk or computer with downloads of papers. No. So some limited papers, on the basis of that, your structure will come out. So that is the beauty of having a good summary of the papers.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I had a question.
Yes, please.
Sir, as you mentioned about the importance of literature review, But
Mhm.
if we have the topic which is very new to the field
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
no such work has been done previously on that particular topic or study area, then sir,
Mhm.
how should we go about it? How should we do the literature review properly?
See, when you are say focusing on any innovation or any new problem as such, okay, first see the basics of that, in the sense what foundation. Say for example, there is a concept called as principal component analysis, okay, and there is a concept of artificial intelligence, and there is a concept of machine learning. Now machine learning, artificial intelligence, let's assume there is no much research. ऐसे assume करते हैं कि artificial intelligence, machine learning just came up, just popped up 1 month back, and there is no much research on that, no much review you are getting. But what you can do is, in such case, go in the foundations and fundamentals of that topic. So artificial intelligence, principal component analysis, this machine learning, they make use of principal component analysis, factor analysis, dendrogram, cluster linkages, and thereby they try to cluster the data. Okay, and thereby they try to give you the best output. So likewise, what you can do is you can go in the fundamental foundations, read about principal component analysis. Majority of the literature is there. Okay, go in the foundations, and on the basis of that, you try to make up your research literature review. Now, if the problem is contemporary, and if there is no much literature, ऐसा होना नहीं चाहिए. Either you are not getting, you are not going through the proper channel, or else if the literature is very short, what are the aligned foundations that you can check? You can also check in books, bibliography also you can refer. Not always you have to go by research papers. In COVID times, even a YouTube video was a reference. It was used as a reference, okay, that this is one of the references we have seen these many cases, okay. So when there is dearth of literature, then whatever piece of information you gather from wherever, that becomes your asset.
Thank you, sir. Sir, so the next question is, how do researchers ensure the rigor and reliability of their findings in fundamental research?
By simply relating, or by simply just validating it with other people's finding, other authors finding, okay. So whatever good research papers you have read, those papers, you just check your findings validity with that, and that ensures your reliability of the findings. And secondly, I'll tell you, reliability, when you have used this word reliability, that's why I'm saying, always remember, if your study is based on primary data, then the reliability increases. But if you're working on secondary data, what happens is, then you have to validate your results on the basis of primary data, then your results are reliable. But if you're working on secondary data and just publishing your result, then the reliability will drop down, because it is not validated with primary data. So that's how it goes.
I have one question, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, once our research is complete,
Okay.
then what factors should we consider when
What
selecting
factors?
for selecting journal for publication, and how can we finalize the journal?
Yes, this is, I think, almost all researchers, they have this issue, that how to choose which journal it will get published or not. Let's have some clarity over here. Guys, all of you, please understand, there are two types of journals, okay. One is the mainstream scientific community journals, and second are predatory journals. Never publish your research in predatory journals, okay, never. Now, how to identify which journal is good and which is predatory? Okay, remember, a good journal is metriced with impact factor. Okay, there's a concept called as impact factor. Every journal has some of the other impact factor. So if you came across any research paper which is published in, say, Science of the Total Environment, there is a journal, Science of the Total Environment. You just put on Google Science of the Total Environment plus impact factor. Okay, you will get the impact score of that journal, something around 10, 11, whatever. Those journals which have impact factor, okay, those are reliable journals. But here is a trick. Many a times predatory journals also create their own impact factor, and they say our impact factor is this much. So how to understand whether the impact factor is reliable or no? Okay, so in that case, it's just like a real note and a fake note. Okay, आपके पास you have 500 rupees real note and fake note, you just put it like this, so we are not able to rectify, we have to observe it keenly, right? But no one has that much time. So many times you will find journals, they are giving impact factor, everything directly on their websites and all, but not always it is reliable. Remember, if the impact factor for that journal is given by Thomson and Reuters or Clarivate Analytics, these are one and the same, but the name you might sometimes refer Thomson or Reuters or Clarivate. If the impact factor for that journal is given by Thomson or Reuters or Clarivate Analytics, these are agencies which control the scientific database's importance. Those are the licensed agencies which decide the impact factor. So if the impact factor for the journal is given by either of these two, then that impact score is reliable. Okay. Second thing, Clarivate Analytics, if you go on the website of Clarivate Analytics or this thing, you will get a list of journals. They have an Excel sheet of journals or PDF of whatever. You will get the list. Download that list. Every researcher should have it, so that tomorrow, if you want to put any research paper in, you want to get safe from that predatory wala thing, no? That list will help you blindly, because you put the name of any journal, and if it is in that list, okay, you want to target, you blindly you can like put your research in that journal, okay, because that's authorized and licensed. But if the name of the journal is not there, then you should be looking for the value of that journal, okay, whether it is reliable or no, and then you should target Scopus indexed, any journal which is Scopus indexed, that you should refer. And Scopus index also gives score, that score you should refer. And parallelly, just like Clarivate, same way, you just refer, and if it is Scopus indexed, you can just drop your research there. But rule of thumb, never publish your research in predatory journal, because once, if you get blacklisted in scientific community, then that corner eye will always be there on you, that they will always be doubtful, okay, wherever you put. Because just like we have PAN number, which is unique for everyone, if you give PAN number to any government organization, your entire record is scanned, right? You come under government scanning of your incomes and tax and everything. Same way, there is ORCID ID, okay, which is there in research community. You have to create your ORCID ID. If you have an ORCID ID with you, once you publish a paper and once you submit to a journal, they will ask you whether you want to log in by ORCID ID or give new details or register something like this. So if you have ORCID ID, and if you publish in a predatory journal, tomorrow when you are actually doing some good research and you are putting it in some good journal, they will scan you through ORCID ID and they will come to know where you have published your previous literature and all, and therefore you might be like under radar. So always remember, you put it in Clarivate Analytics journals, which are authorized by Clarivate Analytics. And I will show you how to research it, but online I can't show you now, but I'm here only. There are two, Priya and Tarun, I have to come for them, no, frequently in your institute. So I can tell you people how to look for that. But since you have asked which journal to choose, first of all, your research has to be completed. एक बार आपका complete हो गया ना, every good journal, every good publishing house, they have their section called as journal finder. Okay. So if you have one thing, I'll just tell all of you, Taylor and Francis, okay, Wiley is one, these are publishing house, Taylor and Francis, Wiley, then Springer, Elsevier, okay, MDPI, these are publishing houses. इनके अंडर जर्नल आते हैं. बहुत बार क्वेश्चन होता है बच्चों को, समझता नहीं है कि मेरा पेपर किधर पब्लिश हुआ, तो आप बोल देते हो स्प्रिंजर में हुआ, एल्सवेयर में हुआ. दैट इज इन दैट्स अ पब्लिशिंग हाउस. एल्सवेयर के अंडर बहुत सारे पेपर्स आते हैं, जर्नल्स आते हैं, सॉरी. ओके, सो एल्सवेयर हैज वन जर्नल कंप्यूटर कम्युनिकेशंस, एल्सवेयर हैज वन जर्नल एटमॉस्फेरिक पोल्यूशन रिसर्च, एल्सवेयर हैज वन जर्नल साइंस ऑफ द टोटल एनवायरनमेंट. These are journals, but the publishing house is elsewhere. So what you do, you go on the website of publishing house, Springer, Elsewhere, Taylor and Francis, Wiley, MDPI, ये reputed है, इसलिए मैंने ये 5 बताया आपको. Okay, they are well known. इनके आप वेबसाइट्स पे जाओगे and you put your abstract, आपका जो पेपर का abstract होगा, you just put it there. It will suggest you the journal. It will give you which journal is best fit for you. Under their publication house. आपने स्प्रिंजर में डाल के वो आपको एल्सवेयर का जर्नल नहीं बताएगा. Okay, so you put your abstract in these 4, 5, whatever multiple publication house journal finder section. And that publication house will suggest you which journal is the best fit for your research, and accordingly you can discuss with your guide and you can drop your research paper there. I hope this helps.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. This is helpful. Thank you,
There is
sir.
one more question.
Yes, please.
As students, we mostly look for APC free and open access journal. So can you give some tips to publish in such journals?
Okay. Guys, let me tell you frankly. Open access, first of all, understand the difference between open access and transformatory journals. Okay. Every journal, not every, but most of the journals, there are two ways of publication. One, either you pay them the fees, okay, whatever they are demanding, and you get it published. But paying fees will not guarantee whether your research paper will be accepted or not. Okay. It's just like you are paying it through open access. Many journals, they promote open access. Open access means the author is liable to pay the charges. Now, if the charges are like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 rupees, okay, Indian rupees, that is okay. But the charges for many of the reputed journals, jo achhe research jo wale hain, those are in lakhs, 2 lakh, 3 lakh, $2,900, $3,000, $2,500. If your research group has that much amount of money, then you pay. But I would suggest you should not go for open access this thing unless and until you have a very big funding as such, or big resource of income, or big project on your name or something. You should usually why to pay? No, you're doing your research, you are investing in your research time, everything. You pay it to the you submit the research paper in a transformatory journal. सब्सक्रिप्शन के अंडर उसको पब्लिश करो. सब्सक्रिप्शन एंड ओपन एक्सेस, इनका फर्क ये है. ओपन, इफ यू चूज व्हेन यू सबमिट अ पेपर टू अ जर्नल, it will ask you whether you are publish, you want to submit your manuscript with open access or this thing, subscription. So you choose open access, and if it gets accepted, then you have to pay the charges, 3,000 for whatever that dollars or euros, which is very hefty amount. But if you choose this option, subscription, that means you don't have to pay anything. The journal will, if it gets published, it will be with the journal, but whosoever wants to read it, those people have to pay to the journal some token amount, and thereby they can read it. So it's a way of how journals system works. Journal, how they, of course, they also have to earn money, no? In fact, let me tell you, elsewhere, the publishing house, Apple, Samsung, Bill Gates का, Microsoft, okay, इन तीनों का मिलके जितना रेवेन्यू है, more than 38% of that is with elsewhere. इतना उनका रेवेन्यू है, okay, because they are one of the big giants in scientific community. But if you are publishing open access, beware, be careful, because I would suggest you see, you are taking all the effort, you are doing all the work, you are doing the research, and you are paying it. You are paying for you getting published. What is the point?
So sorry to interrupt, but the question was, as students, we look for APC free as well as open source journal, open access journal. So there are like, I wanted to know the tips to publish in an open access which don't have fees, article processing fees.
There is the confusion, no, my dear. Listen, open access does not mean you don't. Open access ka meaning hai you have to pay. The journal is open access. Matlab, when you publish via open access, it will be available for all the world free of cost, because the author has paid the charge, not the journal is paying. You're getting?
Yes, sir.
I hope it's clear, or was there a confusion? Like, देखो, आपका क्वेश्चन जो यहाँ पे आपने चैट बॉक्स में डाला है, as students we mostly look for APC free, मतलब article publication charges free, article publication charges free, and open source journal. Open source or article publication, these are contradictory. Article publication charge free journal मतलब सब्सक्रिप्शन वाले जर्नल्स, एंड ओपन सोर्स जर्नल मतलब जो पैसा मांगेंगे आपसे.
हाँ, right, sir. So I was thinking of the paper with subscription. So can you tell us some tips to publish in it?
Yes, so every journal, it has this thing. आपको मैं एक example screen share करके example दे दूँ एक?
Yes, sir. Yes.
If you have time, so that you are clear. Priya, I just want to. Okay, can you see my screen, guys?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes. So say for example, the question, Khushi, can you please repeat the question? Oh, Madhulika, can you please repeat the question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Mhm.
We mostly look for APC free and open access journals. So can you give some tips to publish in such journals?
Yes, yes. देखो, Shay, I have clicked here. Let's take one journal. कौन सा ले लें? Okay. I'm just choosing one journal, Urban Climate. Okay. Now you see, this is a Science Direct. Science Direct is like governed by elsewhere. So I click on the journal's website. Okay. Okay. अभी आप ये journal के website पे मैं हूँ, and you see the basic information is given here. Okay. ओहो, क्या इसको maximize करना है? इसको बड़ा करो ना. Okay. Now you see, you can see this journal, Urban Climate नाम का एक journal है, and उसका support यहाँ पे लिखा है, supports open access. Okay, दिख रहा है? So अगर इस journal में मुझे publish करना है, तो I have two ways. One, either I publish it with subscription, मतलब मुझे कुछ fee नहीं pay करनी फिर. And if I support open access, मतलब that means you can pay the fees and also you can just ये देखो यहाँ पे दिया है open access options. Okay, now if I click here, they will ask me for the charges. क्या charges होते हैं? Okay, so you see there are two options, gold open access and subscription. अब यहाँ पे ध्यान से पढ़ो. Open access में क्या है? Articles are freely available to both subscribers and the wider public with permitted reuse. And open access publication fee is payable. या इस कॉलम में. लेकिन सब्सक्रिप्शन मोड से अगर आप पब्लिश करोगे, नो ओपन एक्सेस पब्लिकेशन फी. मतलब दिस जर्नल इज सपोर्टिंग बोथ, एंड यूजुअली मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द जर्नल्स दे सपोर्ट बोथ. बट इफ यू चूज अ जर्नल लाइक साइंटिफिक रिपोर्ट्स, इट इज प्योरली ओपन एक्सेस, इट इज नॉट अंडर सब्सक्रिप्शन. मतलब आपको वहां पे पैसा पे ही करना पड़ेगा इफ यू वांट टू गेट पब्लिश्ड. ओके, so this is the thing. Now इसके अलावा if you are asking, can I give some tips on how to, what you asked, like just
Publish in such journals.
Yeah, just a minute. I'll just stop sharing the screen. So if you ask how to some tips for publishing in these things, try to understand. First of all, whatever I told you, the introduction, way of writing, identifying the research gap, methodology, how to write it, and resultant discussion, how to put it, and limitation. If this is your good, like this is systematically as per the research demand in the research skeleton, then of course you can publish in, you can target any journal and drop your research paper. Usually a trick is the literature review which you have read, from which literature review, which journals it belongs, usually you can refer those journals only. Okay, you can just put your manuscript in those journals, because your study is also probably having the equal amount of weight as their study, and that's why you can actually weight it and you can put it in that journal. Like that you can do it.
Thank you so much for sir for clearing the confusion. Thank you so much.
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Sir, there is one more question from Mogarai. Sir, in my 2 months project, my topic is related to groundwater and my study area is drought prone. So understanding the groundwater condition, I read some of the paper based on drought. Should I include the references related on drought or only the references related to groundwater?
No, if your papers on drought, if they are useful for in some of the write-up of your paper, you should use it. You should use it. And seeing her like this thing situation, I can say she can use drought papers in her introduction section. वो introduction में ज़्यादा काम आएंगे, because the question I understood what she's trying to say.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I hope you got your answer, Move. There is one question from Prathamesh. Is there any free website to check the AI content of our paper?
Guys, this is little bit tricky. Okay, I'll tell you. Try to understand why. See, I can't comment much on this, but I'll tell you one thing very frankly. Nowadays, if you publish in a good, if you're targeting a good publication house like Elsewhere and all, no, your AI will be, it will come under plagiarism. It will get detected anyhow. But on the first hand, why to use AI for your research? Okay, yeah, you can get shortcuts and easily the synchronized way, the material from AI. But if you use as it is, then you are under plagiarism. You have to modify the information, right? And secondly, AI doesn't give this thing, as per my knowledge, it doesn't give references. It will just compile the material and information in front of you and just throw you ChatGPT ki ye aisa hai, but it won't give the references, I believe. So again, the task is more. You have to again read the references, no? So first of all, don't copy paste from anywhere. Try to apply. I know mental blocks will come, but once you write your first draft, अभी आपको थोड़ा clarity आया होगा कि introduction लिखते वक्त कैसे लिखना है, ये. Let it be crude, no problem. But first your crude draft is ready, then you discuss with your guide and accordingly try to polish it. Okay, try to polish it, and then it will turn out to be a good paper. Drafts होंगे आपके, revisions होंगे. I know this is pretty irritating and boring, but this actually builds your resilience and it builds your patience, and that is one of the human development qualities. So I think AI content, first of all, on the first hand, you should not refer it, and even if you are referring it, okay, you have to modify it anyhow. So otherwise, it will come under the scanning of journals. They will scan it.
I hope you got your answer, Prathamesh. And now there is this one question from Ganesh Kartha.
Yes, you can continue. Like,
yes, sir.
If they are really having genuine questions, I'll definitely answer.
Yes,
how the
topic should get decided, research which was not done before or research we want to do.
See, you can do, say for example, I am thinking that somehow, say, let's assume you are confused or you don't know what to research, how to decide it. First of all, it depends on your interest. All of us have broad area of interest. No, broadly हमको एक चीज पसंद आती है. Say for example, I am from environmental sciences. मेरा research है air pollution में. But when I was conducting my masters, I was interested in biodiversity, ecology, okay, environment kind domain, but broadly I was interested in that. So same way, all of us have some of our broad interests. So if you are very new to this, like from where should I start? आपका broad interest ध्यान में लो, okay, and accordingly you jump into the field, and what you do, you read review papers. शुरुआत में थोड़ा review papers पढ़ो उस interest आपका जिसमें interest है उस field से, and accordingly review papers से आपको अंदाजा ही आ जाएगा कि आपको क्या problem pick up करना है research के लिए. So that is a guarantee, because that's how it works. So review papers, annual reviews एक अच्छी website है, वहां से आप download कर सकते हो. ऐसा कभी नहीं होता कि रिसर्च वाज नॉट डन बिफोर, ऐसा इसका दैट इज नॉट ऑफ मच इंपॉर्टेंस. उसके ऊपर रिसर्च कभी हुआ नहीं है या फिर उससे ज्यादा बेनिफिट होगा और रिसर्च वी वांट टू डू. इट इज नॉट लाइक दैट. इट इज लाइक व्हाट यू आर इंटरेस्टेड इन, दैट यू जस्ट टेक इट. वेदर इट इज अ जनरल टॉपिक व्हिच इज स्टडीड thoroughly by scientific literature, still you can take it. It will cook up something good, because every research is unique. You see, हर एक का research अगर एक ही टॉपिक पे हजारों रिसर्च पेपर्स होंगे फिर भी हर एक पेपर यूनिक होता है. व्हाई? बिकॉज आई टोल्ड यू, you have to identify the gaps and then you have to make it. और वो गैप आपके सिवा कोई और आइडेंटिफाई नहीं किया होता ना. So every paper is like, even if it is a thoroughly studied topic or a new topic, still like you can like ये क्वेश्चन क्यों आया मैं ये बताता हूँ आपको. इसका मतलब क्या है? When we do research, we do it for namesake of a paper. हमें पेपर चाहिए, पेपर चाहिए. But try to understand, guys, you have to shift your reference point when you are trying to think कि हमें पेपर करना है. Your reference point should be the journey of a paper. जो पेपर करते वक्त आपकी जो mental exercise होती है ना, it actually makes you into a better version of yourself. आप बहुत बदल जाते हो एक बार आपका पेपर होने के बाद, because your lot of human qualities get challenged. There are many instances where you don't want to touch it, but still forcefully you have to touch it because you want to complete that paper. Because there is some deadline, because I will get failed, and you are challenged to go out of your comfort zone. And because the research paper ka beauty ye hai ki when you do it, all the boundaries will break and you will become a good personality in itself. You will become a brighter version of yourself. And if that is the case, then this question will not pop up. Here what is happening, I'm not saying Ganesh is wrong. Okay, of course everyone goes through this, but try to understand it is for our self improvement. And that's why when you have a paper on your name, people respect you because they understand that yes, they understand that yes, through what channels he might have gone through or she might have gone through, ups and downs, nights, sleepless nights bhi kiye honge is bande ne. So he has the capacity or she has the capacity. So now when you are doing the paper, shift your reference point, I'm saying, because if you keep this reference point, then you will struggle more in research. क्या आप सोचोगे यार मेरा उसका टॉपिक, यू विल गो इन कंपैरेटिव जोन कि हिज टॉपिक इज गुड, हर टॉपिक इज बैड, या और मेरा टॉपिक तो खराब ही हो गया यार, अब मैं तो क्या करूं, मैं टॉपिक ही चेंज कर देता हूं. सो इट विल क्लियर अ लॉट ऑफ टर्बुलेंस इन योर माइंड. सो एनी रिसर्च टॉपिक यू टेक, ऑल टॉपिक्स आर गुड. अभी जैसे ग्राउंड वाटर पे किसी ने क्वेश्चन किया था अभी, आई टेल यू इन माय डिपार्टमेंट, माय एनवायरमेंटल साइंस फील्ड, ग्राउंड वाटर पे तो इतना स्टडी हो चुका है, बट स्टिल it's still exploring. Okay, because every time there is new dimension which is coming in. That is the thing. So shift your reference point when you are doing the paper. Just think it is cultivating me into my better version because I am learning a lot of things. पेपर होगा नहीं होगा ये बात की बात होती है, पेपर होगा ही. इफ यू हैव टेकन एफर्ट्स तो वो पक्का होगा. ओके, पेपर जब आप सबमिट करते हो तो आपका पेशेंस भी चेक किया जाता है बिकॉज द रिप्लाई विल कम आफ्टर 1 month 2 months समथिंग लाइक दैट. यू आर गेटिंग? वी नीड टू करेक्ट बैटरी डाउन. So that is the thing. I hope this is.
Sir, I have 2 questions.
Please.
Sir, if the research data of the paper is completely new.
Can you please come again?
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, please. It was not clear. That's why. Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, if the research data of the paper is completely new, that is never been used before, the advantages, disadvantages, characteristics is completely new. So that, as you initially told that we have to find the gaps in introduction, which will help us to publish our papers. So, if that draw the attention of the publishers to publish our paper, if that could be an advantage for us to publish the paper.
Actually, I am skeptical. I am not getting your question because your voice is like fluctuating. Can you please? I understood till what we get to know about the research gaps, if we identify the research gaps and put it in our paper. उसके बाद क्या बोला आपने? What is your question?
सर मैं बोल रहा हूँ सर कि अगर मेरा रिसर्च डेटा एकदम न्यू है, मतलब उसका एडवांटेजेस, डिसएडवांटेजेस, कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स पूरा बिल्कुल न्यू डेटा है, जो जिसका एक्सेस सिर्फ एक ही ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के पास है और किसी के पास नहीं है, कि वो डेटा भी एकदम न्यू है, कोई रिसर्चर आगे पहले उसको यूज भी नहीं किया है. तो आपने जैसा बोला था कि हमको गैप फाइंड करना है कि क्या गैप है रिसर्च में, उस पेपर में ताकि हमारा पेपर पब्लिश हो सके, अटेंशन ड्रॉ कर सके पब्लिशर्स का। तो वो डेटा अगर हम यूज करें, एकदम न्यू डेटा जो पहले कभी भी यूज नहीं हुआ है, ऐसा डेटा अगर हम यूज करें तो वो क्या बेनिफिशियल होगा हमारे लिए पब्लिश करने के लिए? वो ड्रॉ करेगा पब्लिशर्स का अटेंशन?
टू सम
अगर वही
एक्सटेंट, टू
सर,
हाँ।
अगर वही डेटा मतलब सर वही डेटा अगर वो गैप हो, मतलब जो गैप हम ढूंढ रहे हैं, अगर वही डेटा ही वो गैप हो कि वो गैप हम कंप्लीट कर सके, पूरा कर सके वो डेटा देके, तो वो
Yeah,
क्या
that's
बेनिफिशियल हो सकता है?
of course, that's a fabulous thing. Then you are filling up the gap with generation of the data only. So that's a very good thing. You can address it that way, that there was gap in the literature, gap in this particular data set. So we are fulfilling that with the help of this data. Yes, it will be welcome.
Thank you, sir. And I have one more question that, sir, हमारा जैसे अगले 6 मंथ्स फिर से रिसर्च पेपर है, तब हमारा इंटर्नशिप भी स्टार्ट होगा। तो
Yes.
सर ऐसे कॉर्पोरेट में ही अगर हम इंटर्नशिप करें तो मतलब वो पेड इंटर्नशिप होगा, तो ऐसा कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और इंस्टीट्यूट है जहाँ पे अगर हम रिसर्च में जाना चाहते हैं तो पेड रिसर्च भी हो सके? मतलब रिसर्च वर्क में अगर हम जाना चाहते हैं कॉर्पोरेट में नहीं जाके, तो वो पेड रिसर्च वर्क हो कि ऐसा कुछ हो सकता है कि सिर्फ कॉर्पोरेट में ही ऐसा हम लोग अगर इंटर्नशिप करेंगे तो वही पेड होगा?
मैं समझा नहीं, मतलब कॉर्पोरेट में अगर आप जाते हो तो आपको वो लोग पे करते हैं, ये कहना है आपका?
ये सर, अगर हम कॉर्पोरेट में अगर हम इंटर्नशिप स्टार्ट करें हमारा, तो
हाँ।
वो कॉर्पोरेट तो हम लोगों को उसके हिसाब से पे करेंगे। तो ऐसे
Okay.
कोई अगर कॉर्पोरेट में नहीं जाके अगर हम रिसर्च वर्क करना चाहते, तो ऐसा कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और ऐसा कोई इंस्टीट्यूट, मतलब ऐसा कोई ऑप्शन है अगर हम रिसर्च वर्क में जाना चाहते हैं तो वो
वहां
रिसर्च
पे भी
वर्क?
आपको कुछ चार्जेस, मतलब
हाँ
आपको पेमेंट कुछ
हाँ
मिले, राइट राइट,
हाँ,
दैट्स व्हाट, नो?
पेड
यस।
रिसर्च वर्क हो सकता है?
हाँ, तो यस, तो देखो इसमें दो चीजें हैं। आई विल जस्ट गिव यू सम क्लैरिटी ऑन दिस। इफ यू आर गोइंग इन अ कॉर्पोरेट, यू आर गेटिंग पेड, दैट्स अ वेरी गुड थिंग। यू आर अर्निंग आल्सो, एंड दैट्स गुड थिंग। एंड इफ यू आर गोइंग इन अ रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट फॉर योर सेम वर्क, तो chances are, since your masters is not complete, research institute chances are rare, मतलब नहीं यूजुअली पे करेंगे वो। ओके, क्योंकि research institute में they can't hire you, know, as an intern or something, because you are not completed with your degree. But the flip side is the chances of you getting published is more in a research institute, because all are researchers, and in corporate everybody is with some other intention doing their his or her job. So I am skeptical. So that's why I'm saying कि अगर आपको पेपर चाहिए, and if you can compromise on a little bit for payment, then of course the better chances are in research institute, because in research institute all are aligned towards that problem only. That's why. Otherwise,
I can add on this, sir.
yes, please.
Ronak, in fact, in research institute, you have to pay sometimes as a to enter that research institute, as you are using their resources. So that is the other way, that you have to pay rather getting the payment. So sir has told very correctly that there you will get more options for the publications, for publish the paper. But in some research institute, many of our students have gone for 2 months also. They have to pay for it, and students really pay for them because they have to publish their paper and they get the enter in the research work. Am I right, sir?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So Ronak, if you are planning for that, so better you look for the research institute, and you can focus on your publication. And if you are again, you have to enter it the corporate world and you have to do the paper work. In that case, our faculties and your internal guides will help for that. Okay. I hope Ronak,
Okay,
your
ma'am.
answer is sorted.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ronak.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Over to you,
Next.
sir.
Sorry. Yes, thank you, thank you.
Over
Thank
to
you.
the next question.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I think so we should wind up now, sir, because it's getting late for the lunch also. I think the students are there. So
Okay. No,
I just
actually, I'm happy that they are asking questions, but it's okay. If we have to wind up, we can wind up. No problem.
yes, we can wind up. So if you want, you can take a last question for the day, sir.
Yes, there is one question, I think, by Arenla.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Aaron La Longchip.
Arenla. Okay. So she's saying that sometimes in most reference papers, the research gap is not mentioned, or even after going through the paper several times, we just can't grasp the research gap. In such cases, how shall we proceed with writing research gap for our paper? Also, if we are working on a particular field with limited data, shall we list this as a research gap too? Can you kindly elucidate? Okay. You see, it's a good question. Finding research gap is first of all, it depends on your volume of reading, how much you are reading. Okay, so the more and more you start reading, the more and more you try to find out, you are able to understand what the author is trying to say and how he's putting it as a gap. Okay, वो समझ में आ जाता है over that once you start reading. Okay, once you keep the eye and read multiple papers. Second very important thing is, always it's not necessary that the research gap is addressed directly. Sometimes even documenting a particular data. अब आप for example इसको एक example से समझो. Say I went to Antarctica, and if I go to Antarctica and collected some samples and came out, वहां से अंटार्कटिका से उठा के लाया मैं कुछ water samples and I did water pollution analysis and came to Pune and I published. I can't say there is a limitation of data over Antarctica. Or I can't say there is no much research done on Antarctica, so I studied Antarctica. No, I am documenting what was not there. So even if your study is going in such a tune or such an alignment wherein your introduction will just have to document, you are just documenting the data in terms of in front of scientific community. There also you can just simply say that documenting of this research was thought appropriate because there are no much records. For example, there is a journal, I remember, African, Sahara African, I'm just vividly remembering it. It focuses on studies in Africa. Okay. And for those people, they whatever crude data analysis is even there, they are publishing it. Why? Because in those parts of the African subcontinent is least studied. Okay. And therefore, there is dearth of data as such, and that's why majority of the studies are coming like this only. That documentation of this was thought appropriate. So, not necessarily every paper will give you research gap, but the research gap is always there. Okay, it is addressed in some or the other way. Okay, so sometimes they will say that we are documenting this research. That itself is clear that yes, there is a gap. Okay, तो आप भी वैसे ही कर सकते हो.
I hope everyone's answers got cleared.
One last
So,
question is there, Sneha. इतना ले लेते हैं और खत्म करते हैं
yes,
because
sir. Okay,
she should not feel that
yes, sir.
everyone is covered and me. Okay. If we have a less than 10% of similarity in Turnitin and the paper has some sort of AI generated content, like some of the subheadings are generated with AI, will that be an issue in the publication? See, if less than 10% and if it is AI generated, I'll tell you one clearly, it all depends on the peer reviewer. Reviewer will decide whether it has to be taken or editor of the journal. They will decide. Because you are already proclaiming that less than 10% is the similarity index, which is good. Okay, which is good. So, but if it has AI content, it depends on the editor of the journal and peer reviewers. So it's all a factor of luck. That's what I will say.
Thank you for the wonderful questions. I now request Ms. Damayanti to end this session by giving our esteemed guest a vote of thanks. Over to you, Damayanti.
Thank you, Madhurika. First of all, good afternoon to all of you. My name is Damayanti Roy, student of MSc Geoinformatics. On behalf of the Placement Department of Symbiosis Institute of Geoinformatics, it is a privilege and honor to deliver this vote of thanks to our esteemed guest speaker, Mr. Shashikant Nehul, for his outstanding webinar on exploring the fundamental of research, unveiling the scope and strategies of research field. His comprehensive knowledge and experience have undoubtedly enriched our understanding of the subject and provided us with valuable guidance to excel in the field of research and academics. I would like to express my sincere thanks
Thank you.
to our placement in charge and entire placement team for their efforts. Last but not the least, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to all the participants who actively attended the webinar and contributed to its success and made this event a success. Once again, thank you to all for being a part of this enriching webinar. Thank you, sir.
Thanks to all of you. It was my pleasure, and all the best. Yes, thank you. Shall I leave the meeting?
Yes, sir. We have declared the close of the program.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
you can leave this meeting. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
All the best.